I was looking at you to do something about it.
With Tyrese Halliburton out for Indiana, how much does that change their offense and what they do and how you guys look to defend them?
Well, one of the things about their team that's been consistent is even with him out of the game, they've been really good, and they've won, and they've outscored their opponents with that bench unit by substantial margins. So that's not to diminish his absence. I think I have incredible respect for him as a player and things that he does for their team. I don't think it changes how they play. He's unique.
I guess, I'm sorry, Dustin DePierre.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, sorry, I hope I didn't jump anybody there.
Yeah.
If you could elaborate a little bit on that, I mean, what does change? Like you said, it's mostly the same, certainly the same pace. They certainly try to run the ball a lot. I mean, how do you run?
You've watched him play.
Yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts.
It's kind of, it kind of starts and ends there. I mean, as good as anytime you don't have a player like that, you kind of go through all the things that he does for a team, no different than, if we were without a player or any team, he's elite. And, but as I said, they're capable, more than capable, and they've shown that when he's out of the game. He played 22 some minutes against us, and have a 48-minute game, and they put up 150 points on us. So I don't know that your preparation for him is obviously different. He's not playing, but as far as how you prepare for the team, they're still going to run. They're still going to shoot threes. They're still going to play with multiple actions. They'll dribble handoff, they'll screen, they'll peel, they'll play pick and roll. So all those things, I think, as far as their style of play, that's what they've embraced. That's their identity. And he's just, because of his talent and his intellect, and his leadership, you always miss a player like that. But I don't think it impacts you when it's kind of self-evident to me, I guess. That really the answer to your question is to go on a long diatribe about how great a player Tyrese is. So I'll spare you that, but I could do that.
Quin, the other night, you came up with the plays that you needed to close out the game in the fourth quarter and in overtime defensively. Is there anything that you take from that momentum-wise that you tell the team that, hey, these are the things that we need to focus on, especially in the fourth quarter and the ends of the game?
I think that's something that that period of the game, the crunch time, clutch period, however you want to define it, we've been better in those situations. As an example, you could play great defense during a possession, and then you don't finish it with a defensive rebound, and they score. So it feels like you didn't play great defense, but you played good defense but you didn't defensive rebound. So I think it's important to look at where your failings are, not just at the end of the game, but in this case at the end of the game, per your question, and try to drill down on those things. And I think our defensive rebounding was a big part of it. I thought we did a better job getting back, where we were able to take away easy baskets, and in those situations to not foul. Usually that's the case if you're at a disadvantage. It's also the case on the defensive glass. I thought we executed on the offensive end as well, and that also has an impact, on what you're doing defensively for all the reasons, particularly in transition. So I've mentioned it before that's for us just I think any team an ongoing process, but it's obviously something that we've focused on. And you like to see progress in those areas, and frankly, you like to see it affirmed with a win, and that was the case.
Going off of those crunch time moments, I'm curious, I talked to Trey earlier this week, and he said you were one of the most cerebral coaches he's ever had. How much do you feel those connections when it does come down to the wire, whether it's overtime games where you guys can be on the same wavelength and figure out how to pull a win?
It's really, really important. I want to be able to help those guys as much as I can, and a lot of those dynamics, with a coach and a player, that also, there's an experiential part of that, that you go through those things together and you learn from them on both sides. When you have success, you can look at it and say, here's why, we felt, and sometimes it's not success, but you might execute. But I think the key thing is the execution, and to try to, as much as you can, separate yourself from the result, because we all feel the result, and sometimes you feel it, to the point where it doesn't make you feel any better that maybe you quote unquote executed, because ultimately the measure of your execution in the end is the outcome. So, but back to your original question, I think it's incredibly important, and just like players learning to play together, or players learning, in a system and finding comfort and continuity and ultimately instinct, that usually creates confidence. And as I said, I think that takes time, and it gets back to why. I think for Trey in particular, him understanding why we're doing something is really important, because he's, I appreciate he said that. I feel the same, that he's got a great understanding of the game, and if you can have conversations, whether it be over film or over text or at practice, I think that's really beneficial to him. It provides him more clarity.
With Jalen, we saw him have a career high in assists on Wednesday. I'm curious, what would be the next step for him to continue growing as far as finding his teammates and creating more opportunities for them?
Well, I think you look at the things that you did, and you did well, and you try to do them more, and do them more consistently, and that's generally where Jalen is. It's why, after the game, I tried to articulate, I thought one of the significant things about the other night was that it came on the heels of the game where you could look at it and say he didn't play as well. But those things go hand in hand. Like I said, your growth isn't linear. We're not just going to see Jalen gradually go like this until he reaches some point in the future. That's all part of it. And so even, it doesn't have to be an entire game. It can be, a possession or two. And, some of it's his teammates getting used to playing with him. Trey's been used to coming back to the ball to bring the ball up the court. Now Jalen gets a rebound and Trey starts to run. And Jalen will learn even more to read the court, and maybe there's an opportunity for him to throw ahead to Trey or to dribble handoff with him, or he'll go to the rim because Trey's dragged his man to the corner. So I think all those things, that's what being on a team is about, and that's what combinations and players playing together about. You see that in pick and roll probably as much as anything. Offensively, when you see it defensively, when players are used to switching and helping one another, and that's really making your teammate better, I think is the crucial part of that.
How you doing, Coach?
Hey, Shane.
In regards to Hallenberg's injury, winning the last 8 out of 9 games
Yeah.
without him, how do you make certain of your team coming out here with not a lack of their mindset?
Yeah, I don't think you have to go too far back for our guys to understand what Indiana's capable of doing, and we didn't do a very good job attacking them either. But even when we did, we were getting run on with the ball, on made shots. So I think regardless of who's in the game, when you see that Pacer uniform, you better be, unbelievably urgent to get back, and that's going to be consistent. He does such a good job throwing the ball ahead, but they do that well as a team also. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.